Having trouble landing your jab when you spar? I'm Michael Foley, former Canadian amateur kickboxing champion, and in this video, I'm going to help you fix your jab so it becomes your most effective punch. The first thing you do when you spar is you want to establish your jab. You use your jab to see how your opponent's going to react defensively, and that's going to let you know where the opening's going to be. Where the opening's going to be determines what punch or kick follows your jab. The biggest mistakes I see people make with their jab is, first, they treat it like a power punch. They're trying to make their jab as powerful as their cross or their lead hand hook, but that's not necessarily how you want to throw it. The next mistake I see people make is they're throwing their jab and telegraphing their punch. So they're letting their opponent know through micro movements or maybe even a big movement that the jab is coming, and that lets them know to move back or cover up defensively. And the third biggest mistake I see people make is they only throw one type of jab. In this video, I'm going to show you over a dozen different ways to throw it. How to treat a jab like a probing technique, where you're probing your opponent's guard to see how they react. First thing you got to keep in mind is that your jab is going to be a snappy shot, not so much a power shot. Like my cross would be a punch that I would try to drop my opponent with, but my jab is the one that I'm going to use to try to get a reaction out of them with. So when you throw your jab, the first thing I want you to think about is that your jab is a probing shot. You're going to pick and probe at your opponent's guard with your jab. So I'll give you the first one. The first one is from my stance right here. I'm on my toes, I'm moving in and out. I'm going to push off my back foot, step with my front foot, extend my jab, but then I want to get back to this position right here. The reason your jab can't be a power punch like your cross or your hook is because your hip doesn't have the room to rotate. When I throw my cross, I can turn my back hip over and turn my back shoulder over so I generate power in that cross. My hook, the same thing. I turn my hip over and throw my hook from here so that can generate power. But with my jab, my hip's not gonna rotate too much. I can turn on my front foot a little bit, give myself a little bit of rotation, but that's just gonna aid in the speed in which I can throw my jab. It's not gonna help generate as much power as, say, if I threw my cross and I turned all the way over from here. The second mistake I see people make is they telegraph their jab. So what telegraphing means is you're sending a message to your opponent of what your intention is. And there's a couple of different ways people telegraph their jab. If you see an untrained fighter throw a jab, they might cross their feet, bring their arm back, load it up. A slightly more trained fighter that keeps a good stance might bring their arm back, open the punch up to jab like this, exposing their jaw on this side. And then the worst mistake I see people make is when they're about to throw a jab, they've got a little bit of training in, they bring their hand back, flare their elbow, and snap their jab from here. It's very subtle, but that's a huge sign for somebody who knows how to slip a jab defensively. So what you want to do instead is you want to think about the concept of weapon first. If I'm going to throw my jab, the very first thing that should move towards my opponent is my actual fist that I'm going to make impact with. So a drill you can practice is just slowing your jab down. From your stance here, I want to concentrate on being very still, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach with my hand. When my hand starts to extend at about the halfway mark, then I push off my back foot to get my body weight moving. Then I'm going to step in with my front foot as I extend my hand a little further. And as I'm turning my shoulder over in its socket to extend my jab, that's when I step up with my back foot and retract my jab. So again, half speed, I extend my jab first, push off my back foot, step with my front foot, turn it over, then catch up. And the third problem I see people run into when they're trying to establish a jab is they think that there's only one way to jab. Variety when you jab, it's the most important thing. So if I give my opponent the same look every single time, my jab looks exactly the same every time, then they can predict and then start to adjust their defense so that they're able to cover up and then ultimately counter punch me. So what I want to have in my arsenal of punches is a huge selection of different types of jabs. So I'm going to give you over a dozen different ways to throw a jab, but you don't have to master all these. You should practice and focus all your energy on just 2 or 3 different variations of these. Find the ones that work best for you and try to implement them in when you're sparring. So I got my good buddy Bob back here to help me out. The first type of jab we're gonna try today is a snap jab. This is an outside jab. It's a jab I'd do if we had a bit of distance between us here. And I just wanna tease that I'm stepping in. So from here, I step in, I throw my jab, and I bring it straight back out. I'm not trying to take space and follow it up here. I'm on my toes, I'm moving around, I step in, I crack with my jab, and then I get back out here. So the snapping jab is a jab that I use on the outside just to test the waters, step in and step out. Then the classic jab is a little different. I'm gonna take up space when I do this. So I'm gonna throw my jab, I'm gonna step in, I'm gonna throw my jab, but I plant my feet. So this type of jab is only different from the snap jab because I'm stepping out when I do the snap jab. This one I'm staying in there. So I step in, I throw my jab, I plant my feet, then I'd fire a combination on the end. So classic jab is step in, plant your feet, and then follow it up. So what if there's a lot of distance between my opponent and me? So from here, I'm not 1 jab away from getting to my opponent. I'm 2, possibly 3. This is where the double and the triple jab comes in. So if I'm on the outside here, I don't just want to walk into my opponent fast. From here, I want to throw my jab here. And maybe if my opponent's got his guards up, I'm going to punch them on their gloves. So from here, I crack the first jab, boom. I don't bring my hand back all the way. I leave it out there halfway, and then I do another step, connect with the second one. This jab, just like the classic jab, I plant my feet, and then I tee off, fire another combination. So what if my opponent has already established their jab? They're throwing jabs in my face, and I'm pawing, I'm slipping, I'm checking, I'm pulling, but they're constantly throwing jabs in my face. That's where this next one comes into play. It's called a slip jab or a corkscrew jab. So from right here, as my opponent throws a jab at my face, I'm gonna slip to the outside of their punch here. At the same time I do that, I'm gonna shrug my shoulder into my jaw. I'm gonna turn my thumb down as I extend my punch, but I slip to the outside and hit my opponent right in the chin as they're extending on their jab. So it looks like this. My opponent's got a high guard, or every time I throw the jab at them, they're pawing or checking. Oftentimes, when they bring their hands up to protect their head, their elbows flare off their body. So that's gonna give me an opportunity to jab to the body instead. There's 3 ways you can actually do this. You can just step in and throw your jab to the body. When you do this, you don't wanna lean in. What I wanna do instead is I'm gonna step in with my front foot, I'm gonna turn slightly more side on, and I'm gonna start to squat. My head comes off the line a little bit, here, and I extend my jab from that position. So my jab to the body is this nice straight shot like this. You can do that off the double jab. You can do that off the slip jab or the corkscrew jab, or you can just do it straight up. So the next one is called an up jab. I'm gonna slip to the other side, but instead of bringing my back shoulder to the front like I should do, I'm gonna drop to this side and I keep my shoulders in the same position. When I do that, I'm gonna start to throw my jab in this position. Instead of turning over towards my face, I'm gonna open it up the other way, and there's a bit of a shrug on the end of it. So I slip to the inside here, and then I throw my punch from this position here. And I wanna concentrate like I'm pulling back a bow and arrow. This side pulls back, rotating this shoulder back. It's gonna give me extra rotation with my lead shoulder. So I slip to the inside here, fire almost with my palm facing up, and I pull back with my rear shoulder. When I do that, I'm gonna go up on the ball of my lead foot. So it looks like this. So the next version of the jab is called the angle jab. There's nothing special about the punch itself. What's special is what I'm doing with my feet. So instead of stepping in on a straight line towards my opponent, I'm stepping on a diagonal line this way and a little pivot with my back foot. And I change the angle in which I'm facing my partner. So right now I'm dead center in front of my partner. When I finish this punch, I'm on a 15 or 30 degree angle away from my partner. It looks like this. Instead of stepping straight down the middle, I'm gonna step on a diagonal line and a little pivot. And my goal should be, instead of putting my jab right here in the middle of my partner's gloves, to put it on the outside right here. Punch my partner in the glove, pin that to this side of their face, and then step to their blind side right now. So when they turn, they'll be squared up with my follow-up punch. So the next one is jabbing out. And you jab out in a similar fashion to how we did an angle jab. I'm gonna step on a diagonal line with my front foot, throw my jab, and swing my back foot around with a little pivot on my front foot. And then as I do that, I'm gonna pump out 2 or 3 jabs. So when I do this on Bob, it looks like this. So the next type of jab is the vertical jab. If my opponent's got a nice high guard right here, and they're defending with a tight high guard like this, we want to throw this jab to split their defense right here between their wrists. So instead of turning over when I jab, I'm gonna keep my knuckles in line vertically and jab straight out from here, snapping it out. It looks like this. I really like to use that punch when setting up an overhand right. The next one, it's sometimes known as the Stockton slap. The Diaz brothers made this one famous, but they do it with a little bit more attitude. The way I teach this one is I throw a vertical jab, so my knuckles are stacked vertically, but I throw it just to the side of my partner's shoulder here. It's just on the outside of their chin. And then from there, I rake it to the side of their head. So I'm trying to hit them in the cheek right here. This is not a power punch. You throw this when your opponent is pawing your jab every time you throw it. So then you anticipate the paw coming, you go around it, and you wrap that punch on the side of their head. That'll get their hand back quick and hopefully give you the opening for the cross. It looks like this. So the next one is not actually a boxing technique. It's a karate technique. It's the back fist. You're literally hitting with the back of your fist. The way I like to use this when I'm kickboxing is I throw my 1-2, and if I miss with the 3, roll it back with the back fist to give you the opening for the cross. So you're hitting with the back of your fist here. Boom. So the next one is a move that I picked up from watching Manny Pacquiao, and it's a power jab. Most people have a rhythm defensively to paw the jab, check the cross, check the hook. Instead of throwing the hook, I'm gonna throw my 1-2, I load up my jab side, my lead side, to the back where I would classically throw a hook from, but instead, I'm gonna rotate from this position almost like I'm throwing a cross with my lead hand and throw a power jab. So instead of a 1-2-3, it becomes a 1-2, power 1. So that's a dozen different ways to throw your jab, but there's 2 bonus ones here, feinting and faking. When I feint, I'm moving a little bit here, and I'm gonna give you a little movement that I'm gonna throw my jab, get you to react, or get you to stop reacting because you don't expect now the jab to come. That's when you throw your jab and start your attack. So all a feint is, it's a slight movement. You feint with your hand, feint with your shoulder, feint with your lead leg that you're gonna throw something, but your hands don't actually leave your defensive position. A fake, it's a bigger feint. So if I'm gonna throw a fake jab, I'm gonna do everything that I'd normally do when I jab. I extend weapon first, I push off with my back foot, I step in with my front foot, but I don't finish the extension. Off of that, I'm looking for this reaction from my opponent so I can throw a cross. The difference between a feint and a feint, it's a little movement here. A fake, it's a bigger movement. Thanks for sticking around. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if there's something you want me to cover, something jiu-jitsu related, kickboxing, sport karate, sport martial arts in general, just put it in the comments below. I'm Michael Foley. I'll see you on the mats.